The village of whispers and shadows, Hollow's Edge. Even the name sounded like a threat. The village existed in a perpetual twilight. It was as if the sun itself was hesitant to touch the place, fearful of what it might find lurking there. The trees stood like skeletal guards, gnarled branches clawing at the sky. They whispered secrets to the wind, secrets the villagers already knew. At the edge of the village, overlooking the huddled houses like a predator, stood the House of Echoes. A once grand Victorian mansion, now consumed by decay. Its windows were vacant eyes, staring out at the world with cold indifference. The house breathed with unseen life, its silence somehow louder than any scream. The stranger with eyes like fire. Ethan arrived in Hollow's Edge with the setting sun, his eyes, bright with curiosity, held none of the fear that clung to the villagers. He was a collector of stories, of forgotten places and the whispers that haunted them. The House of Echoes, he believed, would be his masterpiece. The villagers warned him, their voices low and laced with dread. They spoke of the souls lost within the mansion's walls, of the darkness that clung to anyone foolish enough to enter. Ethan dismissed their words as mere superstition, the ramblings of a community held captive by fear. A path paved with dread. Twilight deepened as Ethan approached the house. His footsteps echoed in the stillness, the only sound besides the frantic chirping of crickets. A thick fog rolled in, blanketing the grounds in a cold embrace. The air grew heavy, thick with the stench of damp earth and something ancient and unpleasant. He placed his hand on the rusted iron gate, its cold touch sending a shiver down his spine. A warning, perhaps. But Ethan, blinded by his own arrogance, ignored it. He pushed open the gate, the hinges groaning like a soul in torment, and stepped onto the path leading to the House of Echoes. Each step felt heavier than the last, as if he were walking against an unseen current. Within the belly of the beast. The front door yielded with a groan like a mouth opening in a silent scream. The air inside was stagnant, thick with the smell of decay and dust. Ethan stepped inside, his footsteps echoing in the vast emptiness. The house felt alive, a living, breathing entity that watched his every move. He ran his hand along the wall, his fingers tracing the outline of ornate wallpaper, now peeling and faded. The air was filled with whispers, too faint to decipher, yet heavy with sorrow and despair. The house was speaking to him, he realized, and the story it told was one of unimaginable sadness. A symphony of terror. Ethan ventured deeper into the mansion, each room a testament to a life once lived and abruptly ended. He wandered through decaying grandeur, the remnants of wealth and elegance now cloaked in dust and cobwebs. The mansion seemed to twist and turn upon itself, a labyrinth designed to confuse and disorient. He heard the soft strains of music echoing from the ballroom, a haunting waltz played on a piano long silent. The floorboards creaked beneath his feet, each step a discordant note in the symphony of terror that filled the house. Portraits of the former inhabitants lined the walls, their eyes following his every move, their expressions shifting from sorrow to anger to something akin to malicious glee. Faces of the forgotten. The whispers grew stronger as the night wore on. Faces swam in the shadows, their features blurred and indistinct. They reached out to him with cold, ethereal fingers, their voices a chorus of pleas and threats. Ethan pressed on, his heart pounding against his ribs like a captive bird. He saw a young boy in a sailor suit, his face pale and drawn, his eyes filled with an ancient sadness. A woman in a white gown drifted down the grand staircase, her face veiled, her sobs echoing through the empty halls. Each encounter chipped away at Ethan's resolve, replacing his arrogance with a creeping sense of dread. He finally reached the heart of the mansion, a grand master suite at the end of a long, winding corridor. The air here was thick with despair, the silence almost unbearable. And then he saw her. She sat on a chaise lounge, her back to him, her long black hair cascaded down her back like a silken waterfall. She was humming softly, a mournful lullaby that sent shivers down his spine. This was the source of the sorrow, the epicenter of the mansion's darkness, the Lady of Lament, they called her. He took a step towards her, his voice a dry rasp in the silence. "Who are you?" he asked, his voice barely a whisper. The woman slowly turned, revealing a face of exquisite beauty, marred by an expression of profound sadness. Her eyes, the color of storm clouds, locked onto his, and in that instant Ethan knew he was trapped. She rose from the chaise lounge, her movements fluid and graceful. "This is my home," she said, her voice a low melodic whisper that seemed to wrap around him, squeezing the air from his lungs. "And now you are home." Ethan tried to step back, to turn and run, but it was too late. Her eyes held him captive, drawing him in, promising oblivion. The villagers of Hollow's Edge didn't need confirmation of Ethan's fate. They felt it in the stillness of the night, in the rustle of leaves, in the mournful sigh of the wind. Another soul, claimed by the House of Echoes, another name added to the long list of the lost. Life in Hollow's Edge was a dance with darkness, a constant negotiation with the shadows that clung to their lives. They knew the truth that Ethan, in his arrogance, had refused to see. The house was not haunted, it was hungry. And so they continued to whisper their warnings, knowing that some would heed them, but many wouldn't. The House of Echoes remained, a monument to their collective fear, and a stark reminder of the darkness that lay at the heart of their existence. It was a darkness they had learned to accept, a darkness they could no more escape than they could escape the coming of the night. They lived their lives in the shadow of the House of Echoes, forever bound to its tragic legacy. The village and the house, forever intertwined in a macabre dance of despair, and the echoes of the lost souls within its walls. They continued to whisper their tales of sorrow, their voices carried on the wind, a chilling reminder that some doors are best left unopened.